Today on NewsWatch, huge wins for Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump in the New Hampshire primaries. We're looking at the story behind the numbers and what it means for the next round. Plus, taking care of the least of these in one of the poorest areas in the world. See who's giving Haiti's disabled children a second chance. And he set out to prove the resurrection did not happen. The amazing movie about a Roman military officer and what he learns about the crucifixion of Jesus. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. New Hampshire primary results are in with decisive winners. For the Republicans, Donald Trump, and for Democrats, Bernie Sanders. Both men are roaring back from a second-place finish in Iowa last week. Caitlin Burke has the story.
Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Bernie Sanders crushed their competition in New Hampshire, leaving no question that voters in the Granite State are angry at Washington and worried about the economy.
We are going to make America so great again, maybe greater than ever before.
Together, we have sent the message that will echo from Wall Street to Washington.
While the wins were expected, the big story coming out of the New Hampshire primary on the Republican side was the tight race for the places behind Donald Trump. Kasich finished a clear second, with Cruz, Bush, and Rubio close behind. That could end up prolonging the Republican nominating contest as voters decide between the different candidates.
If you don't have a seatbelt, go get one. We're going to shake this country from top to bottom.
You all have reset the race, and for that I am really grateful.
Meanwhile, Clinton trying to look at her loss in New Hampshire positively, saying the outcome was expected, but the future looks good.
Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state.
But as the candidates now begin a battle for the South, some analysts say Sanders may not be as easy to shake off as Clinton predicts, especially if he can close his polling gap in South Carolina and beyond. On the Republican side, the top questions moving forward: who moves on to South Carolina, who drops out now, and who becomes the primary alternative to Donald Trump? Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
And here to break down the numbers is Dr. Paul Bonicelli, professor of government at Regent University. In the interest of full disclosure, he's also advised the Rubio campaign on foreign policy. So Trump now has his first primary victory. How do things look for him as he heads south?
Really good. You know, this is a guy that didn't do bad in Iowa, has now clearly won, and won really big. He won with double the vote of his closest competitor. And his closest competitor, John Kasich, is not really a factor into the future because he doesn't have a ground game. It's hard to see how he has a path. And he gets to make this race between him and Cruz. And the question will be who has the stronger supporters, who has the most loyal supporters. And then it's for Rubio to figure out whether or not he can actually be an alternative.
Wow. Now, we did see a strong showing for Kasich and a decent showing for Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio. How do you see the middle of the mix of the establishment candidates shaking out?
I think, you know, the everybody but Trump and Cruz vote is now greatly undecided. There is, except for people like Christie, who I think committed suicide as he was trying to kill Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
He probably has to go home. Several others do. Jeb Bush spent a ton of money and got, you know, only fourth place. So it's hard to see how anybody can go forward other than Marco Rubio if he can get back on his feet. But these other guys have no incentive to get out immediately and let him do that.
Let's talk about Ted Cruz. Third place finish last night. Is it good enough to keep his Iowa momentum going?
Absolutely, because Ted Cruz wasn't expected to do this well in New Hampshire. He not only did better than he was polling, he beat other people who were supposed to, you know, be able to get certain blocks of votes that he couldn't get. And it showed the strength of the evangelical vote. That vote is not huge in New Hampshire, but they came out for him. And I think some of the libertarian Rand Paul types came out for him. So it's a very strong showing. And the media won't talk about it as much because they don't like him very much. But it was a very good showing for him.
On the Democratic side, now Sanders has won a state with a commanding victory. How does it look for him as he heads south?
I think it still looks really bad for Bernie Sanders because he's a 74-year-old socialist. And I don't see how he begins to win a lot of states. He can certainly win a state like that. What's most significant about his victory, I think, is that it is such evidence of how damaged a candidate Hillary Clinton is. She cannot turn out her supporters. Last night, the only demographic that she won was people over 65. Everybody else, every other way you slice it, went for him. That is devastating for a candidate. Even if it's a little state that doesn't matter as much as the rest. She'll do better, of course, in the South, but when you have no excitement behind you, she keeps counting on African-American votes. Well, why would they be excited to go vote for her when she doesn't, bring that excitement?
Indeed, indeed. Dr. Bonicelli, I'm going to call you Marco Rubio. Dr. Bonicelli, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated. Well, as the presidential race moves to South Carolina, Franklin Graham is urging Christians to vote biblically. Graham has been holding large prayer rallies across the country, calling it his Decision America tour. About 7,000 Christians attended the rally in South Carolina just outside the state's Capitol building. Graham urged voters to confess their personal sins, the sins of their slaveholding ancestors, and the sins of the nation, like same-sex marriage and abortion. He also urged the crowd to vote for candidates who stand for biblical truth and biblical principles and are willing to live them. In Georgia, Christians say they are concerned about how the removal of prayer from school was followed by an increase in social problems. Now they're fighting to bring back school prayer. Dale Hurd is on this story.
If you don't think that prayer is an answer, then what is the answer?
These Christian leaders, including a group of students from Morehouse College, were out showing their support for Georgia House Bill 816.
And that's a bill that supports prayer back in schools.
The Georgia Student Religious Liberties Act of 2016 states that students in local schools may pray or engage in religious activities or religious expression before, during, and after the school day. This group is fighting the Supreme Court ruling which banned prayer in schools.
In 1962, the Supreme Court made this ruling, and what we've noticed is that since the Supreme Court's ruling, that there's been an increase in violence, an increase in murder, an increase in teen pregnancy.
Carter Polston is a senior at Morehouse College studying religion.
Although I am a Christian minister and my brothers here are also Christian ministers, we want to make it clear that everybody does not communicate with God the way we do.
Rallies like this were also happening in 7 other states. The American Civil Liberties Union says it will fight the bill. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
President Obama introduced a massive federal budget Tuesday with a deficit projected to climb back above $500 billion. The budget comes in at more than $4 trillion. His plan includes some tax increases like a $10 fee per barrel of oil, which would raise the price of gas by about 24 cents a gallon. The budget also includes new taxes on banks and wealthier Americans. The release coincided with the New Hampshire primary, a day on which it might not get as much attention. The Supreme Court has put a stop to President Obama's sweeping plan to crack down on carbon emissions from power plants. The court telling the administration to wait until legal challenges are resolved. The decision is a big victory for the coalition of 27 mostly Republican-led states and industry opponents who called the regulations an unprecedented power grab. The surprise move signals the justices were won over by strong arguments against the rules. Congress is moving to punish North Korea for its recent rocket launches and nuclear weapons program. The Senate is considering a bill that targets the regime's ability to access cash. It is because North Korea has been developing miniaturized nuclear warheads and the long-range missiles to deliver them. Japan is also looking to impose sanctions to protest the rocket launch. These moves come as United Nations experts reveal that North Korea has evaded its sanctions using airlines, ships, and the international financial system to trade prohibited items for its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. A new report finds the Islamic State is likely planning an attack against the United States. Those findings come from the U.S. Director on National Intelligence, James Clapper. In a hearing on Capitol Hill, he testified saying the group will probably continue to involve those who draw inspiration from the group's highly sophisticated media. He also called ISIS a preeminent terror threat. Coming up, you're going to meet an inspiring couple who is saving the lives of unwanted children. The story when we return. In places like Haiti, children with disabilities are sometimes abandoned. So one organization there is giving families the means to love and care for these children. Caitlin Burke has this report.
No matter how strong your faith or how positive your outlook, when a family welcomes a child with a disability into their lives, it's common to feel overwhelmed, sad, even to question God. If and when that initial reaction fades, We live in a country with resources available to provide children with disabilities a full life and parents the necessary support and education to care for them.
But what if you have that child in a part of the world where you have no support, no idea what's wrong, and no idea how to help?
I take care of him, and later he should help me learn a skill, become a man normally. But this isn't normal.
In Haiti, parents often view a disabled child as a problem to be fixed. They go from hospital to hospital, trying to find the doctor who can make their child like all of the others. Haitian doctors often don't want to give parents the truth because they know what's likely to happen next.
No doctor wants to tell you because they know in Haiti how bad our situation is. If they tell this parent that's true, they're gonna throw up those kids in a hospital or anywhere. They're not gonna love them anymore.
Pepito knows firsthand the challenges of raising a child with a disability here. In 2009, his son Chris Jerry was born with severe cerebral palsy. Pepito's wife died in childbirth, leaving him with a 3-pound, incredibly sick baby boy to raise on his own. 2.5 years passed before he truly learned what he needed to know about taking care of his son.
I had never worked with a widowed father before, and here he was with his 2.5-year-old with no intention of wanting to give him away to an orphanage, and that would have been so easy for him. A lot of orphanages would have said yes because he was a widowed father, and Chris Jerry's disabilities are so severe. He wanted to raise his son. He wanted to provide for his son. He wanted to take care and be there and love his son forever.
Heather Meyer-Gabot moved to Haiti in 2010 with a background in special needs. She was helping at an orphanage when Pepito showed up, seeking answers about his son. The two worked together to find Chris Jerry the right medical care. They grew so close that they married in 2012. The following year, they took their combined passion for the special needs community and started Footprints of the Sun.
Our mission is educate these parents to love their kids, help them, and do what they need.
I believe it's a rescue mission, especially for the little children, the babies that we get. I just feel as though the parents are at that turning point of they don't know what to do with their child. And I feel like sometimes we get to them just in time before they're losing hope, before they're so desperate that they'll leave that child at a hospital or they'll leave that child with a grandparent.
Haiti's voodoo culture often works against Heather and Pepito's efforts. That's because families often turn first to voodoo priests for help because of their own beliefs or pressure from family.
Some family judge them because they don't know what to do it, but some of them did it, and when everybody says no, they see, oh, there's no answer for this. They just give up because that way they tell them to go is not the right way. So they come back.
When we come in, we're just like, just embrace it. Let's do this together. Let's educate your child. Let's get therapy for your child. But most importantly, let's just create a family that loves this child.
It's sad. And it's really, really like slow process. It is slow process for them to give up and like fixing and go into raising.
Footprints of the Sun is breaking new ground this year. They've built a school to provide education for children with disabilities.
This year we're going to have 3 classrooms. We'll have a 2 to 3-year-old level classroom. That doesn't mean all the children will be 2 to 3 years old. And then we're going to have a 3 to 4-year-old classroom. And then one unique classroom that we're going to open this year is a sensory classroom. And that's geared for children with autism and severe ADHD.
Heather and Pepito don't plan to stop there. Their land gives them room to grow. And one day they hope to reach each child in the community.
This has been my biggest dream since I moved to Haiti, is to have an inclusion school of typical functioning children and children with disabilities learning together in the same environment.
Until that dream becomes reality, Heather and Pepito will work among Haiti's special needs community through education, encouragement, and support, taking it one family at a time. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Terrier Rouge, Haiti.
And you can learn more about the work of Footprints of the Sun right here at our website, cbnnews.com. Up next, the new movie about the resurrection. We are sitting down with the star of Risen and find out what it was like to play a Roman soldier searching for the truth. A new movie is soon to hit theaters, and early reviews suggest it is picking up where the Passion of the Christ left off. Risen tells the story of Jesus' crucifixion through the eyes of a Roman military officer who is on a mission to prove the resurrection didn't happen. The star of the film, Joseph Fiennes, is sitting down with us for this week's Studio 5.
It's beyond us.
Spare me the riddles and zealot babble. Where did you take Yeshua? Is he a goblin? A sprite? Alive again somehow?
Open your heart and see.
I see delusion.
It doesn't matter.
A matter.
No.
Then give me the others and I'll grant you freedom.
I'm already free.
So, how do you get into the mind of Clavius?
To get into the mind of Clavius, I think it requires steeping yourself a little bit in Roman history. Mm-hmm. And I read several books, what it was to be a tribune, what a tribune meant, what were their duties. Because I felt that a big attraction for me was the way his mind worked. But what I found, to get to his mind, I found that I had to take a physical route. Mm. He's a man of war. He's in the industry of death, really. I mean, he's had a long career, and it's culminated in being a military tribune in Judea. And Judea, for a lot of those Roman soldiers, was the last place on earth you ever wanted to get posted. Mm. Full of insurgents,
yeah.
Full of sort of war every day. And so I went to, we spoke about this earlier, mm-hmm. I went to gladiator school in Rome. And,
how long did you stay in gladiator?
I stayed long enough to never want to go back. No, I spent the good part of a week working with a brilliant set of guys. And what I learned from a military standpoint, really for me, was the way into the way the man was conditioned and the way that he thought. And that was really the beginning of the prep.
So you put your body through the ringer, too?
I did, and I'm still suffering from it.
Oh no, what's still hurting?
Well, sort of odd, muscles pulled and things like that.
Wow. So I know it was a physical journey for you. Was it also emotional?
Yes, it was emotional. We had a wonderful team of actors, and they were all very present and dedicated to the narrative. And it was all, like any great narrative and any great movie, it's about relationships. I think your average good actor gets that and knows it and preps accordingly. So the disciples as a group of actors were incredibly bonded. They were a unit and a family. And I was very much polarized and outside of that. Mm-hmm. But when I got invited into the group, it was kind of like the arc of the film was pretty much the arc of my existence with them. I wouldn't have contact with them until we had kind of made those scenes where I had contact. So that became quite emotional, that journey. Being a part of the group was great, and I longed to do the scenes with the disciples than I did sort of having to be a Roman and fight all the time. But in particular, I remember the scene with Yeshua, where Clavius, you're not quite sure if it's a dream sequence or it's happening for real, but he's perched up on a rock and they're in the desert walking to Galilee. And he sees this vision of Christ and he goes to him. And I hadn't spoken to Cliff Curtis, who plays Jesus, who does a marvelous job. We never had contact, eye contact, vocal contact, anything at all, for nearly best part of 2.5 months. And then we got to do that scene. And somehow that separation, and we always knew we'd get to make contact, and we'd in our own ways prepped and probably built up a kind of our inner lives and stories and what these relationships and characters meant to each other. So when we came to film that, it was a powerful experience.
Mm-hmm. I, seeing it, felt it. Whose decision was it that you're not going to speak and this is going to be the first meeting?
That really came, I think, from the actors. I think Cliff had prepped in his way, which was personal to him, and the same for myself and others. And Kevin Reynolds, who's done an extraordinary job, our director, I think really built a set which was dedicated to the actors, going with their methodology, and that paid off.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was an honor. And that film hits theaters February 19th, just a week away, setting the stage for the Easter season. Stay with us. There's more of CBN NewsWatch to come. And finally, a word to consider for your Wednesday. When deciding what to keep and what to lose in your life, there is only one test needed to guide that decision, and this is it. Lose anything that controls you, delays you, or distracts you from your pursuit of God. It is just that simple. He wants your full attention, and trust me, He is company you will never regret inviting in. With that, make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about 24/7 at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can always do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram as well. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a wonderful Wednesday.